Hey, I purchased this Gladiator Gear Loft and I bought several Gladiator items and I've been reasonably happy with them. I mean, they're not amazing, but they do the job pretty well. And for all the other ones, I've been able to mount them straight to my walls. But for this one, it requires these stupid Gladiator wall tracks, which I'm just not going to buy and install wall tracks just for this thing. Plus it would add like 50 more bucks to the cost. So I'm gonna show you how I mounted them without it. And unlike the other things from Gladiator, this is the only one that I can notice that it doesn't come with a method to mount it straight to your wall. And it says it only has a 50-pound limit, but my guess is that comes from the wall mounts. And I'm currently loading it with well over 100 pounds. And from what I can tell in my installation, I feel secure in that. You should read the label and do the install the way they recommend. And this is just for informational purposes. The first thing I did is make a kind of French cleat style piece of Baltic birch, where I took a piece of Baltic birch and I cut this rabbet out of the back. This is actually just two pieces. I already cut this off, but I've just kind of laid it here to pretend it was all one piece, because I already used the piece that I made. And you can see that it has like 3/4 of the material is still intact and just a small rabbet in the back. And there you have it. And so that situates right here on the wall. And unfortunately, you won't be able to see inside. Okay, you can just barely see how that plywood strip, the rabbet on it, catches the U-channel that's welded to the back of the shelf. That is now screwed. I've got Baltic birch walls, but if you hit a couple of studs, it should be sufficient. Use really good screws to anchor it. I basically have hit this stud and this stud. I have 2 studs, and then the rest I've just screwed it like 8 screws, 1-inch screws to go straight from one piece of 1/2-inch Baltic birch to the other. That acts as a ledger that the entire thing rests on. And then the other thing is I had to take these brackets off that were on this part and just put a little 1/2-inch Baltic birch shim behind it. And then I used some washer head screws with square drive, because all my screws are square drive. These happen to be Craig screws, washer head, 1 1/4 inch. That way it goes through both pieces of material, but not too far. I want to make sure I don't hit, for example, any wiring. So it'll just barely poke the back of the back piece of plywood on both of those. So 1-inch screws would probably be better, but I didn't have any with washer heads. So, and that's it. And now this thing is super secure. I've got 5 of these alpaca gearboxes sitting on it that probably weigh a total of about 100 pounds loaded. And it's very stable and very secure and doesn't require those big ass ugly tracks from Gladiator. Okay, there you have it. The fully installed Gladiator Gear Loft. The only challenge you may have is because that's a 45-inch span, those 2 guys won't typically line up on a stud. I was lucky that, well, not lucky, I planned this to have a plywood wall, so I don't have to worry about that kind of thing. But an alternative design would be to cut a piece of plywood, this entire size, cut the rabbet in the back of the top, mount the plywood to the wall. It acts as its own French cleat style for the welded U-channel at the back of the shelf. And then these guys are already offset the right amount because it's the same piece of plywood. And that would be a great way to install it. And that way you could hit a couple of studs in between with screws on your piece of plywood. Just make sure you get a good quality plywood so that the ledger doesn't break away. A lot of the Home Depot stuff, if you try to cut a rabbet in it, will just be like a mess inside because the core sucks. So that would be one thing to consider. Or you could do, 1 strip of hardwood there, like poplar even would be fine, and another strip of hardwood down here. That'd be another way you could do it. So there's a lot of ways you could do it, but this hopefully gives you some ideas on how to take best advantage of this Gear Loft without buying their proprietary mounting system. All right, good luck.